The sound of trumpeting cut through the morning air, sharp and clear, before fading into the wide silence of the savannah. A baby elephant had called out, not in fear, but in pure joy. Its little feet splashed into the shallow edge of a watering hole, sending rings of ripples across the surface. The calf's ears flapped clumsily, like sails too big for a small ship, while its trunk curled and uncurled, practicing the skills it would need to survive. Every movement was innocent, careless, and full of life. The sun was climbing, spilling light that painted the tall grasses gold and orange. Dust rose gently with every heavy step of the herd. Their shadows stretched long and soft behind them, turning the savannah into a moving picture of strength and patience. The baby wandered ahead, stepping just far enough to feel free, but close enough to sense the protection of its mother. She was never more than a few strides away, her great frame towering above, her eyes sharp and alert even in moments of peace. The rest of the herd moved as one, massive bodies swaying with calm rhythm, trunks brushing against the ground, tusks gleaming like pale ivory in the morning glow. From a distance, they looked unstoppable, a fortress of muscle and memory. But within that fortress, the calf remained small, fragile, still learning the ways of the wild. Birds circled high above, their wings flashing silver against the clear sky. Their calls filled the air, layering sound upon sound. The chatter of starlings, the shriek of an eagle, the low hum of insects waking with the day. Everything spoke of balance, a world alive and breathing. Yet within that balance, there was also silence, an absence so faint that only the oldest elephant might notice it. The grass nearest the water stood still, too still, as if holding its breath. The baby calf did not notice. It dipped its trunk into the cool water and blew bubbles like a child learning a game. The mother shifted her weight, the earth trembling slightly beneath her, and she let out a low rumble that vibrated through the ground. It was a warning wrapped in love, a reminder for her calf not to stray too far. The calf answered with a small squeak, high-pitched and playful, then splashed again. For a moment, the savannah seemed wrapped in innocence, a place untouched by danger. But danger was never far away. Beneath the cover of grass and shadow, a giant python waited. Its body was thick as a tree branch, scales patterned in mottled greens and browns that blended perfectly with the earth. Coiled tight, it lay still, every muscle wound like a spring. Only the faint flick of its tongue gave it away, tasting the air, measuring the vibrations that rolled through the ground with each elephant's step. It had no interest in the towering adults, too powerful, too dangerous to strike. But the calf, small and playful, just a few paces away from safety, that was the perfect chance. The wilderness is full of such quiet battles, where patience and instinct rule over noise. The python did not rush. It waited, listening. The elephants were calm, the calf distracted. Time was on its side. Meanwhile, the herd settled near the water's edge. Older cows gathered around the young, trunks touching, ears fanning to cool themselves. Dust mixed with the scent of damp earth, and the air shimmered with heat. The baby calf splashed deeper into the pool, lifting its trunk to spray a fine mist over its back. For an instant, it looked like a fountain of joy in the golden light. The mother stepped closer, her shadow stretching long across the water, wrapping her calf in its shape. She lowered her trunk and brushed it gently across the calf's back. The touch was more than comfort. It was connection, a silent bond older than memory. Elephants speak with touch, with sound too deep for the human ear, with looks that carry stories. And in that moment, she told her calf, "I am here. You are safe." Yet even as love filled the space between them, the savannah whispered of change. A ripple moved across the tall grass, subtle, almost invisible. The birds that had been chattering moments ago grew quiet. The hum of insects seemed to dull. It was the kind of silence that comes before storms, before predators strike, before the rhythm of life turns suddenly violent. The baby calf lifted its trunk again, sending droplets into the air. Sunlight caught each drop, scattering them into tiny sparks of light. The herd continued to drink, to graze, to move with their ancient rhythm. To them, the world was as it had always been, danger and beauty living side by side. The mother elephant raised her head, ears flaring slightly. She sensed something, a shift too small to name. But instincts carved over centuries told her to stay close. She stepped nearer still, her massive body now almost touching her calf. Her breath was steady, though her eyes scanned the grass. Nothing moved. Nothing dared. Still, the python lay waiting, its coils pressed deep into the earth, ready for the single chance it needed. The mother's caution and the snake's silence hung together in the air. A tension too soft for the calf to notice, but heavy enough to bend the moment. The camera of imagination lingers here, on the baby's joy, the mother's watchfulness, and the invisible threat curled in shadow. It is a picture of the savannah's truth, peace that always carries the weight of danger, innocence that lives beside violence, love that must one day face loss. For now, the herd stands whole, the calf alive in its mother's shadow, the sun climbing higher in the endless sky. But somewhere in the tall grass, nature waits with its oldest question: who will survive when calm turns to chaos? The savannah breathes in silence, holding the answer for the moment when the storm finally breaks, the silence shattered in a heartbeat. The tall grass, swaying lazily in the late afternoon sun, suddenly erupted as if torn apart by an unseen force. In that instant, innocence met brutality. A flash of muscle and scales cut through the golden haze. And before the herd could even sense what had happened, the baby elephant was yanked into the coils of a giant python. The calf's startled trumpet ripped across the plain. Not a playful call this time, but one of raw terror. Dust billowed into the air as tiny hooves scrambled for ground. The python's body, thick as a tree trunk, wrapped itself around the young elephant with astonishing speed. Each loop was like a knot pulled tighter, squeezing, crushing, silencing. The herd froze for a breath, shock holding them still. Then chaos erupted. Trumpets roared. Dust rose. Ears flared wide like battle flags. But at the center of this storm, one figure moved with a terrifying purpose. The mother, she thundered forward, her feet pounding the earth so hard the ground itself seemed to tremble. Her eyes were wide, not with fear, but with fury. She lowered her massive head, tusks thrust forward like spears, and slammed into the snake's coiled body. The python hissed, jaws unhinging in defiance, its muscular grip refusing to yield. The baby screamed again, a sound that cracked through the herd's hearts. It was high and piercing, a desperate cry of life being squeezed away. Each trumpet grew weaker, the calf's body trembling under the crushing embrace. Dust stuck to its skin, dampened with sweat, while the snake's scales gleamed, a living chain refusing to break. The herd formed a circle around the scene, as if drawn by instinct. Their voices thundered together, but they dared not press closer. Even full-grown elephants knew the python's strength. They stomped the earth, their feet sending shockwaves through the soil, a warning, a plea, a rallying cry. Yet still, none could help. For a breathless moment, despair took hold. The calf's cries faltered, softer now, as if life itself were slipping from its lungs. Its small trunk flailed weakly in the air, then dropped. The weight of silence pressed down on the herd. Was this the end? But the mother would not surrender. Her body heaved with rage, her tusks gouging at the snake's armored hide. She wrapped her trunk around the python, pulling, straining, every muscle trembling with effort. The snake's grip only tightened, each coil bulging with raw strength, each squeeze a reminder of nature's cruelty. Dust clung to her sides as she pushed harder, desperation driving her beyond pain. The python lashed back, its head darting like a spear toward her eye. With a whip of her trunk, she deflected the strike, but not without cost. A gash opened across her thick skin, blood trickling in dark lines down her face. Still, she did not retreat. The calf wheezed, a faint, broken sound. That was enough. It reignited a fire in the mother's chest. With a roar of breath through her trunk, she drove forward again, her tusks stabbing into the earth beside the snake, shaking the coils loose for just a heartbeat. And in that heartbeat, hope flickered. The calf sucked in air, a shuddering gasp that cracked through the suffocating tension. It was still alive. The mother seized the moment. She lifted her massive head high and slammed it down onto the python with the weight of a falling tree. The ground shook. Dust flew. The snake writhed, twisting violently, trying to regain control. Its muscles bulged, straining to maintain their death grip. The clash was primal, strength against strength, survival against survival. The mother's trumpets turned into screams of rage, echoing across the plain. The herd answered, their voices building into a chorus, a wall of sound that seemed to shake the very sky. The python hissed louder, coils shifting, jaws gaping as if to swallow the calf whole. Its body rippled with impossible power, scales grinding against the calf's fragile skin. But this time, the mother did not falter. She pressed harder, tusks scraping against the snake's body, her trunk tearing at the coils with relentless force. The calf's eyes rolled, glazed with fear and exhaustion, but somewhere deep inside, it felt its mother's strength fighting for it. Its trunk twitched, a weak sign of life, as if calling to her, "Don't stop," and she didn't. With one final surge, she threw her weight sideways, dragging the python's coils across the dirt. Dust exploded around them, a storm of earth and fury. The calf slipped, collapsing onto the ground, its chest heaving, eyes shut. The coils loosened, not broken yet, but shifting, faltering under the assault. The python struck again, fangs flashing in the dimming light, but the mother met it head-on. Tusks clashed against scales. Her trunk wrapped the snake's throat, pulling with all her might. Her muscles burned, her wounds bled, but she would not let go. The herd's trumpets grew louder, stamping the earth in unison, a battle drum for their sister, their leader, their protector. Dust filled the air until the sun itself seemed swallowed. And then, silence. For a frozen moment, neither moved. The mother's chest heaved, her trunk still coiled around the python's neck. The snake writhed, its strength faltering, loosening its hold. The calf, limp but breathing, lay in the dust beneath them. The clash was not over, but the balance had shifted. For the first time, the python seemed unsure. Its coils twitched, wavering. Its hiss was weaker, less certain. The mother's shadow loomed over it, vast and unyielding. The camera would lock on her eyes now, eyes blazing with pain, love, and a fury beyond words. She was no longer just a mother. She was a force of nature itself. The jungle held its breath. Would she break the grip? Would the calf live to stand again? The chapter closes here, at the edge of despair and hope, the air heavy with dust and silence. The baby lies still, chest rising faintly. The mother's body trembles, blood streaking her skin. Yet she does not back down. That a mother's love had turned into something unstoppable, a storm against the serpent, life against death. The story was not yet finished. The dust had not yet settled when the mother elephant struck again. Her tusks dug deep into the earth, pressing the python's massive coils down with the weight of a thunderstorm. Each slam of her body sent vibrations through the ground, shaking loose the snake's crushing hold inch by inch. The air filled with the hiss of scales against dirt, the trumpeting roar of fury, and the muffled cries of a calf fighting for AI, or that at last, something gave way. The python's grip, so unbreakable just moments before, slipped. A small opening appeared between the loops of its muscular body. The mother seized that chance. She wrapped her trunk gently but firmly around her calf, pulling upward, lifting the young one out of the serpent's suffocating embrace. The baby gasped, air flooding into its lungs like water into a cracked dam. Its cry came out thin and broken, yet alive. And that sound cut deeper than any tusk. The snake thrashed in protest. Its head reared back, mouth wide, fangs flashing. But the mother did not retreat. She slammed her weight down one final time, grinding the python's body into the dirt, pinning it until the fight drained from its coils. For a long, tense moment, predator and protector locked in silence, one glaring with cold, glassy eyes, the other burning with a mother's unstoppable fire. Then, slowly, the python yielded. It unwound itself, its immense body rippling backward, sliding away into the grass. Each movement was a retreat into shadow, the serpent vanishing into the tall blades as if it had never been there at all. Only the trail of disturbed earth, coiled like scars across the plain, remained as proof of the battle. The mother stood over her calf, sides heaving, trunk trembling. She lowered herself gently, cradling the baby against her chest. The calf pressed into her body, seeking warmth and safety. Its cries were softer now, weak but steady, like the fading echo of a storm. Dust clung to their skin, streaked with sweat and blood, yet in this fragile embrace, there was only relief. The herd, silent until now, moved closer. They formed a circle around mother and child, their massive bodies standing guard in reverence. No trumpets of triumph rang out. Instead, there was quiet, a silence heavy with respect, as if the savanna itself bowed its head. The wind softened, carrying away the dust. The air stilled, the land exhaled. The calf shifted, lifting its head. Its eyes blinked open, glazed with exhaustion but alive with recognition. It leaned its tiny frame into its mother's side, drawing strength from her presence. She responded with a soft rumble, a sound felt more than heard, vibrating through the calf's fragile bones. It was a lullaby, a promise that she would never leave, scars would remain. The calf's skin bore the faint impressions of the coils, lines pressed into tender flesh. The mother, too, carried wounds, a gash across her face, raw and bleeding. But scars in the wild are not just marks of pain. They are stories written on skin, reminders of battles fought and bonds unbroken. For a long while, nothing moved except the slow rise and fall of breath. Then, with the patience only elephants know, the mother nudged her calf forward. Step by step, the baby found its footing. Its legs trembled, threatening to buckle, but the mother stood close, each touch of her trunk a gentle encouragement. With every unsteady stride, the calf leaned on her, guided by her strength. The herd followed, their shadows long across the plain as the sun lowered. They moved together, the youngest cradled in the middle, shielded by giants. Behind them, the grass closed once more, hiding the serpent's path. Ahead of them stretched the endless wilderness, wide, indifferent, eternal, but within that vastness, in this fragile circle of life, love had defied death. The camera would pull back now, rising above the dust. The savanna rolled out in golden waves, dotted with acacia trees and fading light. To the eye of nature, this was just another evening. Another hunt failed, another life barely saved. Yet to the elephants, it was everything. The mother's eyes, once filled with fury, softened as she looked down at her calf. She pressed her trunk gently across its back, a gesture of both reassurance and reminder. Survival, she seemed to say, is not won by strength alone. It is carried by devotion, by sacrifice, by the threads of love that bind one life to another. The herd moved on, their footsteps heavy but steady, fading into the vast silence. The land returned to its rhythm, birds calling, insects buzzing, the wind whispering through the tall grass. Somewhere in the distance, the python slid deeper into shadow, waiting, watching, never truly gone. Nature had not changed. It was still cruel, still merciless, but it was also tender, capable of moments that no eye could forget. As the sun dipped low, painting the horizon in blood-orange light, the calf walked pressed against its mother's side. Its cries had quieted. Its heart still raced, but it beat in harmony with hers. The world around them stretched on, timeless, unconcerned. Yet in that small circle of dust and silence, something greater had been written, not just survival, but proof of love's power in the wild. The baby lay still that night beneath its mother's shadow. The jungle, the grass, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. A mother's shadow covered her child, and in that shadow lived the truth of the wilderness, that even in the face of death, life can endure, not through strength alone, but through the bond that refuses to break.